Hi, Wildling. Hey, I'm still looking for some more interesting guests on European herbalism and foraging. So if you know anybody that would want to be a guest in my podcast series, please feel free to reach out and contact me through social media, Wild Plant Forager, or through my website, wildplantforager.com. Thank you so much. Welcome to Wild, the podcast for wildlings just like you. Wildlings who want to transform the prevalent plant blindness to collective plant wisdom. My name is Lieve Galle. I've been working as a herbalist and wild plant forager in Belgium since 2002. In those years, I've seen a lot of changes. Working with plants has become more popular, but I've also seen time is running out for our planet. As foragers and herbalists in Europe, sometimes we're dealing with different plant species and different cultural approaches towards plants. In some countries, working with plants is licensed, and in others, it's almost illegal. I believe that together we can learn from one another and be stronger. There is nothing more empowering than connecting wild souls. Together, we can have a greater impact on restoring the ancient link between people and plants. And that's why, for this podcast series, I'm talking to fellow herbalists and foragers in Europe. So if you're ready to find out what you've never been told, but what your soul already knows, welcome to Wild. Hello, Wildy. Welcome to a new episode of the Wild podcast. And today we have Miranda Tringis here. She's a pioneering herbalist and the founder of Cyherbia Botanical Park in Cyprus. She has a passion for Mediterranean herbs, sustainability, and traditional herbal wisdom. She has created a unique space blending education, wellness, and ecotourism. And through her works, she inspires thousands of people to reconnect with nature and discover the healing power of plants in Cyprus. Welcome, Miranda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real joy to be in your company and in the company of other herbalists that will be listening.
Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with herbalism?
Well, we go way back to when I was a very young child. I think when I was around 5, 6, I grew up in rural Utrecht in the Netherlands. So I was surrounded by green fields, and I used to always pick flowers for my mom, wild flowers, anything from buttercups to dandelions. And as a very young child, I have this core memory of picking dandelions, chopping them up, chopping up the stems and the flowers in a glass jar of water and leaving them out in the sun. And then after an hour or so to drink that water. Nobody
Ah.
told me this. And now, many years later, I know what it was that I was doing. But I was always playing with flowers, with wild grasses, always wanting to know what they are. And even though in my family herbalism wasn't practiced, and herbs were just something that you add to your food if you put any at all. So most of my childhood memories regarding herbs, they were completely intuitive. And I remember as a young child, when I was picking flowers, I swear I could hear them sing in the sunshine. And even though my mother used to say, "Oh, you're just imagining it," because I was a very over imaginative child. But now I still wonder to this day, I'm sure I didn't make it up. I'm sure I could hear them. And Only recently, I was in an office somewhere, and there was a house plant, and I could hear something. And it wasn't with my ears, it was within me. I could hear a scream. And I looked around and I saw this plant, and it was bone dry. And I said to the person in that office, "Can't you hear? Your plant is crying out for water. You should water it." And of course, they looked at me as, "Oh, you crazy woman, you." But I took my water bottle out of my bag and watered it then and there. So that was a core childhood memory with the dandelions. And what I made actually was a sun brew. And I still, this day, I make sun brews as well, particularly during the summer solstice. Sun brews are fantastic herbal drinks to celebrate solstice with. But when I moved to Cyprus aged 19, and when I had my first child, she was in need of herbal medicine after conventional medicine failed. To explain, this was when she was very, very young, just a toddler. She used to come down frequently with respiratory infections. So laryngitis, pharyngitis, bronchitis, all the itises. And our pediatrician would prescribe antibiotics every single time. So, me being a young and inexperienced mom and not at all involved with herbs, I became a herbalist much later. She became immune to 2 types of antibiotics by the age of 4, and she had no immune system left by that time. So, I had to take her out of preschool. Thankfully, I was a stay at home mom at the time, and I could just look after her and monitor her health. But I said, no more doctors, no more medicines. I am going to have to start looking for natural solutions. This was before the internet. This was 1996 and 1997. And so I started reading books. And to my great surprise, I learned that the most common plants are also the most effective in dealing with respiratory infections. Plants like sage, mint, thyme, rosemary, they are all absolutely amazing to use in teas and tincture making as well for combating these kind of infections. So at the onset of each cold, with the first cough, I started making tea, mainly from mint, and then I would add a little bit of thyme and a little bit of sage, because mint, of course, is the most palatable. It's the nicest in flavor. You didn't want to put my child off. And then I would sweeten the tea with local honey, which is a natural antibiotic also. So thankfully, she was really taking to the tea. She liked them. So I I soon found out that a cold would just be a cold. So a cough for a few days, and after that, it'd be gone, and it wouldn't turn into an infection with phlegm and heavy cough and all that. And then I thought, why don't people know this anymore? And in reading more and more, I learned that Cyprus used to have a very rich herbal tradition, but people have abandoned the herbs with the coming of chemical medicines in the 20th century. And very soon they just turned their back on them, even though, like 100 years ago, every community had their own herbalist and had their own community healer. Now, of course, that is all gone. And I was so enthusiastic with the results of this that I said, okay, with the herbs, I'm going to rebuild her immune system. It was completely shot. So that took another 8 years, because don't forget, something that is completely destroyed in a young body, it takes a long time to become strong again. And so with herbs and with nutrition, it took me 8 years to rebuild her immune system, and I kept reading. So I was like um, a kitchen herbalist without any kind of qualifications at the time. Then as she grew stronger and I was using herbs more and more, my cooking was completely transformed, and I started making all kinds of tea blends and experimenting just the way I did when I was a very young child. Um, However, in 2004, when my child was then 10 years old, my husband and I bought a piece of land, initially as an investment, not thinking anything of it. It was at a good price. We were looking to invest in land, and that's what we did. 6 months down the line, he said to me, you know, this land is just lying there, just sitting there, and it has a soul and it has a purpose. The purpose of land is to bring forth fruit. He said to me, yogurt with herbs, why don't we make a herb garden where people can come and visit and learn about how to increase their health and maintain good health and wellness with herbs. And we start making herbal products because you're doing that at home and you're loving it. Why not do it? And we'll make the place a fun place. We'll plant a big labyrinth, a maze where people can play away from screens, away from urban environments, to just return to nature for a fun day out for their health and well-being, and to learn about healing plants of Cyprus. And so I said, okay. I was very scared at first of this project because I knew this was going to be a lot of hard work, and neither of us are from agricultural families, that we grew up with this. But it seemed like such a wonderful adventure. And so I said, okay, we're going to do this, but I will want to go to study herbalism then and get a degree in as a herbalist, and to be a proper practitioner, not to just be somebody who's read a few books. So the creation of the park took 8 years. In those 8 years, I studied for my diploma as a herbalist, and I did my experiments and my practical and all of that. And we planted the herb garden, failed, planted again, failed again, until we got it right. The
Wow.
maize, to plant a maize, when you plant any kind of bush, the baby bush that you plant is maybe like 25, 30 centimeters high. And the maize had to become 2 meters high. That took 8 years. So in 2012, our garden looked absolutely amazing, and the lavender was in flower. It was June, the lavender was in flower. And I looked around and I said, oh, isn't this wonderful? I need to start inviting people to see this, because we were the only ones seeing this. I didn't have a proper infrastructure. I had a shack where I did all my things. And I didn't have any kind of lab or any kind of other facilities. It was all very, very Spartan. But I had to start from somewhere. So when the lavender was in flower, I put a post on Facebook. There was no Facebook marketing at the time, 2012. It was just join in the lavender harvest. And at Cyherbia in Avrora, we're in the village, about 20 minutes away from the nearest towns. Join in the lavender harvest, and I was giving bunches of lavender free for people to take home, because it was far more that I could process and that I could work with. And to my big surprise, over 300 people turned up. I couldn't
Wow.
seat them all. I'd borrowed chairs, I'd borrowed tables, I bought a few bits and pieces. I only had a small fridge. It was hot at the time. Stocked the fridge with bottled water that ran out within an hour. But the people loved it. And that was all the encouragement I needed to say, okay, I may not have a proper shop, I may not have proper facilities, but I'm going to open. I'm going to open. And that's what I did the first 2 years. I didn't even have a cash register in my little shack shop. It was just a money box. Anybody could walk away with it. Nobody ever did.
Mhm.
Because the people that came were people that were genuinely interested and loved an initiative like this. But then the ball started rolling, and more people were coming. So I needed to have an assistant, and then another, and then another. And it grew and grew and grew. And sometimes I liken it to a little dragon. Like a baby dragon is the size of a lizard, and you carry it around on your shoulder and you pet it. And you say, oh, this is my little pet. And I take it wherever I want. But then the dragon starts growing and it needs feeding. And soon you put it on a leash and you still are sort of somewhat in control. But then when it grows bigger and bigger, it is in control and not you. Now the dragon is fully grown and I may be riding its back, but it takes me where it wants, not the other way
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
Because a garden is a living organism. And a business is also a living organism. And then as new needs become clear, you have to fill those needs. It's not the other way
Mm-hmm.
around, like, oh, I'm going to do this now. No, the business shows you, and the garden also shows you where it needs attention. Just as certain plants have shown me, okay, I don't really like it here. I'm going to move somewhere else. And I've seen plants upping and going somewhere else. That's quite amazing. Or two types of the same genus, say cousins of each other, that didn't like each other as plants, and the one ousted the other. I've seen that as well. So that really taught me that plants are sentient
Yes.
beings, and sometimes they get on really, really well, and other times they compete and push each other away.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that journey. It's quite amazing, I think, how motherhood actually brought you closer to what you already had as a child, this natural interest in what was growing around you. And it often goes like that, right? That motherhood brings us closer to ourselves. I
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because
yes.
that piece in us, the mother in us, identifies with Mother Gaia.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, then we start thinking about natural ways of doing things.
Yes. And I also like how you got started before everything was already established. It was imperfect. And that's exactly what, because I sometimes see some students and they say, oh, I want to start like a herbal thing, but it's not perfect yet, so I cannot start it. But sometimes you just have to take the leap and it will get more perfect along the way.
Yes, that's what I learned, because don't forget, it took us 8 years in creation. And so, those 8 years, we had to have a very long breath, putting all of our money, all of our effort, all of our blood, sweat, and tears in this project. And okay, I wasn't ready. But then I thought, if I wait until I'm ready, I will be burned out by then.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I might give up hope, or anything might happen. Why don't I just start where I'm at, and everything else will come. It'll grow, and that's exactly what happened.
Yes, it's so good that you got started. So I'm wondering, who are exactly the people that are visiting the garden? Is it more like tourists from abroad, or is it also like people from Cyprus that come from other parts of the country, or how should I see it?
All kinds of people. When the gardens first opened, it was foreigners that lived in Cyprus, or live in Cyprus, that started to come as they were more open to an initiative like this, because there's nothing like it on the island. Then tourists started to come, and lastly, the local Cypriot people. But when they started coming, they really did love it, and
Oh,
now there's just such a mix of people. Schools come and visit, because we've written 3 different educational programs by which children learn about the treasures of nature. And we've made it in such a way that it's a treasure hunt. So I'm not talking to the children. The children discover by this program, they discover a plant that is really helpful in headaches. They discover a plant that is great for colds and flu. They have to find it. They have to find a picture next to the plant in the garden, and then write down the name of the plant that is on the sign next to it. So that way they retain the information a lot better. This is the Montessori principle that I love, because it's just wonderful to go out in nature and discover things and see things with different eyes. And I love the educational part of it. Uh, Now we're at a stage that we are exploring eco-psychology and our
hmm,
relationship with the plant world, and how we feel a much deeper connection to the natural world around us. This is again something that years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I taught a seminar on that for the first time, but completely intuitively. Now my daughter is studying for her diploma in eco-psychology. I'm reading into the material as well. And so we want to do a lot more with that in the park for people to really reconnect, because what I see all around me, and I'm sure you see that as well, is that this generation, but especially the next generations, the next 2 generations, are completely disconnected from the natural environment. And this leads to many, many problems, most of the time of a psychological nature, because we're not meant to be separated from the natural world around us. We are a part of it, and it is a part of us. And the sooner we realize that and we actively reconnect with nature, we start feeling a lot better, a lot calmer. We can see things in a different light. We're not taken by every wave of
Mhm.
panic or worry. When you go out in nature, you can really come to yourself. You can ground yourself. And a lot of people do that without even realizing it, just by being in the presence of nature. It's
Mhm.
very, very helpful. And this is a direction that we want to, both my daughter and I, we want to do a lot more in here at the park. So there's always more to
Yes.
learn about nature. Now, as a herbalist, of course, I make herbal medicines and teas, tinctures. We distill our own essential oils here at the park. Very
Wow.
soon, when the lavender starts blooming in June, we'll be doing daily extractions of lavender essential oil, which is lovely. It's really, really wonderful. And it's wonderful to do that in front of the people, because our
Mhm.
distillery is open to visitors. So
Oh, I can imagine they're completely
immerse.
immersed in the aromas of the lavender.
Yes, yeah, yeah, they can really do that, and that's yeah, that's all part of the experience. The experience that we want to offer at
Mhm.
the park is just that, to be enchanted by the aromas, by the looks, by the touch. You have to use all your senses when you're walking in a garden, and really try and observe
Yes.
things with different eyes, and then that's when Mother Nature does a lot of healing within you, even just by walking through a garden, even just by walking.
Yes, and I love your approach that it's not like some boring educational thing. Like what I hear from kids sometimes is they go to museum and they say, "Oh, they really want to trick you into learning something that is actually boring." And they think we don't know it, but we see that they are tricking us into it. But like you have this approach of enchantment, and I think that's really nice. That makes it more like a herbal theme park. And yes, and I agree also what you said about the connection, because I think it's one of the diseases of our time, and a much overlooked disease actually. And through this enchantment, that's a great way to get people involved.
Yes, I just see it when people may not even realize that they have this need. They don't, because people are just dragged down by life and by the demands of modern life. And when
Mhm.
one Saturday, one Sunday, they decide, oh, let's go to the herbal park that we heard about, and it may just surprise them what it does to them, and how healing it is on a psychological level, and I hope also on a spiritual level,
Mhm.
just by immersing yourself in the presence of nature, with all the smells, the colors, the textures. That has been the goal from the beginning, and yeah, now we're leveling up in that area.
Yes, and as you said, it's so easy. It's like just spending time in nature is something that anyone can do. It doesn't cost any money. It just takes a little bit of time, but and it is working so well for our mental health. So it's very accessible for all, and more people really should discover it, I think. So yeah.
Yes, there was a massive study covering 20,000 people who were asked to spend a time in nature, and how much time was necessary per week to feel significantly better with
Mhm.
yourself, how to improve your mental health and how much time was needed. And they found that just 2 hours a week spending time in nature was enough for people to start feeling significantly better. And so
Wow.
when you take that into account, that's just less than 20 minutes a day. So every day, if you take a walk, even in a park, if somebody lives in a big city, that you can go to a park, just walk in the park or go on your rollerblades or on your bicycle and spend time there and try and observe everything that grows there at different times of year. Then you reconnect different, even better. It's not just by, walking in a park or taking a walk on the beach if you're near the sea or going to the forest. But when you go regularly and you visit the same natural spaces, then you also see the seasonal changes. And
Mm-hmm.
in observing what grows where, what is this plant, and getting interested in what grows there. Is this edible or is this medicinal? Because when you go to any park, wherever there's wild plants, most of them actually are edible and medicinal. And so it's fun for somebody who's not had much experience in nature to just go with an open mind, and even just to sit with a plant or sit with your back against the trunk of a tree. And then when you close your eyes and you feel that you're merging with the tree, and you feel, or you imagine, you visualize the sap running through the
Mm-hmm.
trunk and into the roots. And then you can ground yourself as well and visualize your own roots going deep into the earth. That is healing. That is healing without even taking a medicinal tea.
Yes, exactly. So as you mentioned the seasons, how are the seasons in Cyprus? Like, um, I'm guessing compared to Belgium, the winters are a bit shorter, so there's a longer time span to harvest herbs.
Winters are very, very short. Cyprus's biggest problem is the lack of rain. And every year, the lack of rain is more and more acute. And this year is a critical year, which makes me slightly fearful for the future, even though I don't really like to voice that. It's just that with minimal rainfall, the island is drying out, and I see species disappearing. The summers are very, very hot and very, very dry, obviously. So in the summertime, there's very little that grows like in the wild. Only in the mountains you will find wild plants that you can still forage during the summer. But our foraging season is early spring. When I say early spring, here that is February and March. And that is a
Oh,
very, very
nice.
short window of time. So it's only 2 months a year that we can forage wild edible greens, such as wild mustard, such as mallow and nettles, one of my favorite plants, nettles. But that's only in February and March, because very soon the temperatures get higher. There's more sunshine, and then everything turns woody and straggly, and then they're no good for cooking anymore. You can still
Mm-hmm.
dry them, but as a
Mm-hmm.
plant grows woody and straggly, then it's past its prime.
Mm-hmm.
So my foraging workshops I do in February, late February, early March.
Wow.
And then I get requests like in the middle of summer, when are you going to have a foraging workshop? We're really interested in doing it, because they're very popular. In the past 10 years, I've been doing these yearly workshops. It's very, very popular. People want to learn about what grows around them. People want to be able to identify the wild plants and eat them, because when I first came to Cyprus, my mother-in-law, she remembered how in the old days they used to go out every early spring and eat what the land yielded, because people were really, really poor here. So she took me once on my first foraging day, and we foraged mallow and white mustard. Now, white
Mhm.
mustard, of course, it grows all over Europe. And I remember in those days writing a letter to my mother in the Netherlands. Mom, you would not believe those yellow flowers. that we see growing by the roadside. They eat them here, and they're really delicious. They're really peppery. And even though my mother-in-law at the time, she didn't know why we should, she didn't know the constituents of the plant. Obviously, she just knew these are edible and they're good for you, and that was all they needed to know. That's all the people
Hmm.
of the island in the early days needed to know, that you can live off the land in wintertime and early spring. So yeah, and now foraging is very, very back in fashion, if I could say that word. I mean, it's popular. It's popular.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that you have, when it comes to harvesting plants, that you have rather like a summer break than a winter break. That is like an entirely new concept for me. But I can imagine if it becomes very dry and very hot in the summer, yeah, that everything just dries out. And yeah, how mainstream is it in Cyprus to work with herbs? Are like a lot of people still doing it, or is it like completely vanished? Because previously you just said that, yeah, a lot of knowledge is lost already. So is there like a revival going on right now in Cyprus, or
Yes, there is. There is. And there has been for the past 10 years, even though the number of herbalists practicing in Cyprus are not many. Um,
Mm-hmm,
but people are interested in using herbs for health and well-being, as many people have been disappointed by mainstream medication, and they try to find natural solutions, especially when it comes to inflammatory situations.
mm-hmm,
When people are on prednisone, which has so many side effects, and people want to take a more natural route. Or even with serious illnesses, people come to me and say, do you have something that I can take alongside my cancer treatment? Even like that, but also other chronic situations. And there are chronic situations that we can manage easily with herbs, such as osteoporosis, where I use horsetail and
mm-hmm,
nettle. And horsetail, because it's so rich in silica, is so, so good. And then I see these people coming back after a couple of months, and they say, "Oh, I just feel so much less pain right now. I just feel that I have more flexibility in my joints." Because yeah, this herb does wonders
mm-hmm,
for the joints, and it's what is easier than taking a cup of tea a few times a day. And when I say you need to drink a liter a day, that's 4 cups. That's doable. You make the tea late in the evening. You let it stand overnight, so you've got a very, very strong infusion, and you put that in a flask and drink throughout the day. That's how simple herbal medicine can be. Just a cup of tea
mm-hmm,
that you drink during the day, and then at the same time, when people say, "I'm not really a tea drinker," and then you can make tea into a little me time ritual. This is how I always like to present it, and I always say to people, bring out your nice teapot, the one that you would only use if you have guests. Why? Why only when you have guests? You use your beautiful teapot, you use your beautiful mug, because you deserve that little break. Making tea is a
exactly.
ritual. It takes a few minutes to make the tea. So those are minutes that you are away from what you're doing. Then you have to wait for 10, 20 minutes for the tea to brew and to cool down so that you can eat and you can drink it. And that in itself is a beautiful ritual, and it is a moment of rest, a moment of taking a break from what you're doing. And often you may find that after your little tea ritual, when you're sipping your tea, then the things that you were struggling with before your tea break, they don't seem all that big anymore, because you've
Mm-hmm,
taken a little bit of distance from what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
and you're
That's a
taking
great
some
tip.
time for self-care.
Yes, yes. Self-care is so often seen as, going to the spa or getting this or this treatment or buying expensive things for yourself. But it can be this easy. Just brew yourself a really nice cup of herbal tea. Yes, I like that. I really like that. So you've told me that there are not that many herbalists in Cyprus. Is there a lot of connection in between you?
Yes, there is connection. Yeah, and many times if I happen not to have a certain herb in stock, or it is one that I don't grow or that I don't make, then I will send a person to a colleague that I know he makes this particular supplement or this particular tea he has in stock. So yeah. Or if my harvest of a certain type of herb has is not as plentiful as I need it to be, I can buy from somebody else who's also who's also growing herbs here on the island. So yeah, there is that communication here, and there is a little bit of a community. By the way, herbs are available in every single supermarket. There will be a section with some herbal teas as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
So
people
they are
do.
very accessible for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
And the quality is okay?
Yeah, the quality is top quality. Actually,
Wow.
in the first century AD, Pliny the Elder wrote, "The herbs of Cyprus are the best in all of the Roman Empire."
What?
That's a really cool quote. Yeah, yeah.
Is that what brought you to Cyprus?
It's not what brought me to Cyprus. I learned that a lot later. However, the sunshine, the hot climate, the soil conditions, and the sunshine make for extremely aromatic plants with a very high quality of volatile oils. So when you take oregano, for instance, a plant very rich in volatile oils, if you just smell a couple of leaves of fresh oregano here, and you compare that to the way it smells in Belgium, where you don't have the sunshine, where you don't have that climate, it's not the same. Here, it's
Yes, obviously. It cannot be the same. Yes.
cannot be the same. Just as certain plants that I started growing here, and I brought roots and seeds from the Netherlands, such as comfrey, one of the plants that I love very, very much, because I used to sip the nectar as a child off of the flowers, and I did that a couple of weeks ago. I did that again when I was visiting, and I was cycling, and I saw a few comfrey plants, and I said, "Oh, I've got to taste this again." And I did. But I've tried growing comfrey. It's grown for like 5, 6 years, but only under trees, in
Mm-hmm.
pots under trees, so always in the shade. And I had to water it every single day, because if you
Wow.
see comfrey in the wild, it always grows near bodies of water. Yeah, always
Yes,
next to
exactly.
the sloot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, comfrey now has disappeared from here, and I'm not going to plant it again. It just it's far too hot for plants like this.
Yes, but it's interesting how you, because I can imagine that sometimes you also miss plants from the Netherlands when you're in Cyprus.
Of course I
Um,
do. Yeah, but when I visit, then I go foraging like mugwort. I just needed a little bit of mugwort, because I cannot forage in the Netherlands for the use of my business, only for personal use,
mhm.
because I would need boxes and boxes full. But I wanted to make a mugwort smudge stick, so I just brought back a small bunch that I foraged as I was cycling, and I'll make a smudge stick from that.
Okay. So, and if you're in Cyprus and you want to study herbalism, is there like a herbal school in Cyprus, or do you have to go abroad, or do it online,
There,
or how does it work?
there are courses that one can follow here, and you would get some kind of diploma, but it's not accredited.
Hmm.
It's for people that are interested in taking their health in their own hands, and they want a more in-depth kind of knowledge. But it will not make one a practicing herbalist.
Hmm. Okay. So, and like, what is a legal framework in Cyprus? Is there like a thing like a licensed herbalist? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do?
It's the same as in the rest of Europe. And here they tend to take things very, very literally when it comes to the law. Like what I see when I visit other European countries, particularly Greece, I see in herb shops, I see herb for cholesterol, herb for diabetes, herbal mixture for diabetes, herbal mixture for this, for that, with the actual name of health problem on it. And if I would do that here, they'd shut me down.
Yes, yes, and it's the same in the Netherlands and in Belgium, you
Yeah, you
know, it's
cannot.
not
So
allowed.
we have to make up silly buzz names.
I
Like
know.
for a digestive blend, I have to call it after dinner. Something for mental or for memory and concentration, call it clarity. We have to find these buzz names, and then even on the back of the packet, you cannot say this will help you concentrate or this is good for your digestion, even though the German Commission E stated chamomile is one of the best plants to take for stomach upsets. Yeah, but you cannot put that on the packet, even though the very same commission in the EU says that this plant is has proven benefits for
Mhm,
digestion. So it's such a it's a bit of a mess in all of Europe, and I think the legislators themselves don't really know what to do, and so they want to err on the side of safety, but also
mhm,
because big pharma has such a big finger in the legislative pie. Um, take a plant like stevia, for instance. Stevia is a plant originally from South America, and it was labeled as not proven to be safe, and so you cannot sell the plant within
mhm,
Europe, and you cannot sell the leaves of the plant, the dried leaves of the plant, which are a natural sweetener. But that was because they wanted to buy time, and Bayer then patented the chemical version of stevia, where they isolate those two glycosides and they just take the one and make that into chemical stevia, which is of very dubious benefit for our health because there are um, other things put into it in order to make it into
mhm.
that white powder. But that was okay. That is perfectly all right. You can say that that is a healthy product. But the leaf, the original, the way nature made it, cannot be proven if it is safe or not for human consumption. I mean, what on earth is this? So that's where we're at with legislation in the herbal field, very, very much in Europe. I think in America things are a lot more relaxed. Still, having said that, I see that in Greece they don't really pay much attention to this. But I get audited every single year, and every single year the auditor
Oh,
will say something. Oh, but you can't really say this or you can't really say that. So now I'm in the process of making brochures for all of the teas that have a medicinal quality, and in a brochure I can write whatever I like, basically. There's no legislation against what you write in a brochure. I can say
really?
this tea will give you wings to fly, and nobody can say anything about it. You know, that's how crazy it
That's a
is.
crazy situation.
It is. Um, Still, we have to work within the framework of the law, so we have to abide by
Mhm.
that. Even though I try to fight, I've been fighting for 10 years. And this year I said, no more. I can't do it anymore. I'm on my own doing this when it comes to legislation. And it's not a battle that we can win.
Mhm.
So we have to be creative within the framework of the EU regulations and legislations, even though they're a little bit vague on many, many points. But that's just the way it is.
Yes, and I hear you talking about European legislation, but even within different European countries, there is so much difference into what the national laws say, like the difference between the Netherlands and Belgium. Belgium has a lot longer list of plants that cannot be used in food than the Netherlands. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
very strange.
it's crazy when you think about it because Belgium is such a small country and like 1 hour driving and I'm not even 1 hour and I'm in the Netherlands. So it's a bit crazy when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
and
still,
sometimes
a
I get
plant
worried a
will
little bit
still.
about the whole European legislation, especially now since the Brexit, because the UK has like, they have they have a legislation of medical herbalists and licensed herbalism. And since Brexit, whatever is left in Europe, sometimes I'm a bit afraid that they will even make it more strict than it is already today. And then on the other hand, I can see this um, slow but growing movement of herb folks and herbal people that are, and really there is more and more of us, so it's like a movement that they cannot pretend any longer that is not there. So um it goes two ways, and I'm wondering about your opinion. How do you see the future of herbalism, either in Cyprus or in Europe, for like the next 10 or 20 years?
Well, I think that more and more people turn to natural remedies and want to try out natural remedies. So there's definitely a market for herbalists, and when there's a market, then of course there will be the products as well. Um, but it's harder for a consumer to make a choice, because if you cannot state on your products, on your tea, on your chamomile tea, somebody who's never seen chamomile tea, or chamomile in, say, in a mixture together with lemon balm and verbena and mallow, which is like soothing for the stomach, and some calendula in it. Like there's this mix that I make for the stomach, which even can heal an ulcer because it's that soothing to the stomach lining. And you cannot put that on the packet. So if a person wants to buy something and goes into a shop and there's not a person there to tell them, hey, this is a herb or this is a mix that will help you for your stomach, then they don't know what product to choose. On
Hmm.
websites, of course, it's easier to give the information that you want to give about certain products. So it's easier for people to buy things online. And I don't know exactly how the legislation is about health claims on a website. I think as long as it is not on the product itself, but you can say on your website pretty much
I'm not
what the
sure,
information.
actually. I'm not even sure how it is in Belgium. I know one herbalist from the Netherlands who actually made two websites, one with the info on all the herbs, and one where she sells like the tinctures and the oils and the so she made two different websites. I don't know how exactly how it works, but
At the moment, at least, they still allow us to make tinctures. Tinctures
Mhm.
are very powerful herbal supplements. They're very, very effective. Tinctures, because they're in liquid format, are easily assimilated by the body, so you feel the effects very, very quickly. To name you an example, urinary tract infections, which can be very, very painful. As soon as you take a little bit of uva ursi, and especially if you combine it with burdock as well, 20 minutes later, you just feel such relief. Yeah, herbal medicines in the form of tinctures, they're actually my favorite way of taking herbs. I love teas as well. I drink a lot of tea, and many people do that as well. And here in the summertime, because of the high temperatures, we here in the bistro at the park, we serve herbal iced tea, which is really, really cooling, because we use cooling herbs such as hibiscus and mint and blackberry leaf, which are all very, very cooling. So, yeah, that's how we give to people. As soon as they come, they get refreshed with a herbal iced tea. So then a person who's not used to drinking herbal teas, they get a taster. They get a free taster, and then they say, "Hey, this actually tastes pretty nice, and it really quenches my thirst." And then they ask for another, and then they also want to buy the tea. So that's also part of the education. Let people taste it. Let people try it out.
Yes,
And
I like that because some people come to me and they say, "Oh, but herbal teas, they really taste like dishwater." And I'm like, "No, they should not be tasting like dishwater." But it's just like this prejudice that some people have in
Yeah,
their heads.
there
And
is that, and of course you cannot win everybody over. Some people will say, "Oh, it tastes like nothing. It's just like water." Okay, well, it tastes like maybe they have an underdeveloped palate. Who knows? But people, when they're taken on a tour, they learn about certain plants. Not, of course, not about everything, because then they will not retain any of the information. But I always like to encourage people to touch the plants, feel them, feel the texture. Is it oily? Is it soft? Is it smooth? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? If they dare to pick a leaf and put it in their mouth, even better. Not everybody dares to do that, because they think a plant growing naturally has to be washed before you taste it. I'm not going to argue with that. But I do encourage people to have that kind of immersive experience, because that's all part of getting to know what grows um, in your area, but also to get that hands-on experience. And that is
Mhm,
really, really
mhm,
important. It's important for us herbalists to have a hands-on approach, because how can you be a practicing herbalist if you yourself don't know what the plant looks like, feels like, tastes like, if you haven't sat with it, if you haven't um, communicated with it in certain ways, the way plants communicate to us when a plant tells us, "Hey, cut me," because it starts to make little leaves along the side of the stem, and you've forgotten to cut it, and so plants communicate with us in their own unique way. And that deepens our knowledge of the plants as well. And who knows, when you spend time, and real significant time, with plants, then you get certain insights that you may find later in some obscure book to be true. Which is really great. When I sometimes when I go to the mountains, and I go for a walk, and I see plants that I cannot grow here, because the herb garden is here in the lowlands, and in the mountains there's different plants growing. And one plant may draw my attention, and then I sit with it, and I think, "Wow, you've got quite a presence," And so I sit with it a little longer, and then insights come to mind, which I later look up in literature. And then I think, yeah, that's what I felt about this plant, or that's what I believe this plant communicated to me. And then again, when you sit with a plant, of course you touch, of course you smell, of course you taste it. That's how we you get a deeper knowledge of plants. And that's what I tell beginning herbalists as well, to really spend time with plants, but also to make simples. So a simple tea. You want to get to know yarrow? Make yarrow tea. How does that make you feel? Drink it for a few days. How different? What do you feel? Do you feel it's astringency? Do you feel? Is there any change in your skin? Do you feel that your skin is less oily, or that your whatever outbreaks you may have on the skin, that they disappear? What does it do to your stomach? What does it do to the urinary system? How, to really, really get that kind of knowledge, because book knowledge is never enough
mhm.
to really become knowledgeable with plants. And also, when you work with clients, um, one person may come with a stomach ache, and there's so many plants that you can recommend for stomach issues. Say for inflammation of the stomach, how many? The list is endless. So you
Mhm.
you need to really match the person to the plant that you're going to recommend. And in order to get that
Yes.
deeper knowledge of plants, you need to have spent time. You need to have tasted. You need to have experienced yourself, as well as, okay, we all learn about the constituents of plants, and how to use it, and plant chemistry and all of that. But that's not where it ends. You also have to match the plant to the person. And when you
Hmm.
see a person and you do a very quick diagnosis, either with pulse or iris or just by observing, because you see, is their skin red? What is their
Hmm.
tongue look like? What is their posture like? Are they fidgety? What kind of person is this? If you see a very nervous person in front of you and they're fidgeting and they're like all over the place and their eyes are darting to and fro, then you see, oh, this person needs something really calming. Yeah. And when they come to you with the stomach ache, it's no surprise because all their stress and
Hmm.
anxiety sits right there. But then you can match the plant to the person you see in front of you. That's, I think, what makes herbalism so exciting.
Yes,
There are
yes,
endless
exactly.
combinations, and I think that is just really beautiful to match the person to the plant. And sometimes when I see a person, a plant may appear next to them in my mind's eye, and I think, oh, you need.
Oh,
I saw
wow.
that once. One person was standing in the shop. There was a shop full of people, and this one person caught my eye, and I saw burdock next to them. And then I walk up to this person.
Yes, what did you do? You walked up to them?
I walked up to them and said, "Hi, can I help you?" He said, "Yeah. I've tried so many things, and I have these things on my skin." And he had like purple um, skin discoloring, and it just looked like a liver thing. And then I thought, oh yeah, now I see that. I saw on the one cheek and on the arm. And I said, "Oh, that's why burdock was calling, because your liver needs cleansing, and burdock, of course, has this affinity for the skin. It really cleanses the skin of all kinds of things." And so I thought, yeah, burdock, because that person was given milk thistle, which appeared to be too strong, too harsh, which is
Yes, yes.
the strongest
Hmm.
cleanser. But some
Hmm.
people need a kind of a different approach and
Yes.
a different remedy. Yeah, that's really
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how you said a while ago that really it's all about learning that plant language, and that is what you're teaching. But on the other hand, you're working with people, well, tourists that speak a lot of different languages. So I'm wondering, do you know the plant names in different languages
Oh
or?
yeah, you learn that along the way. And in before the war in Ukraine, we had really big numbers of Russian tourists in Cyprus, and they would really flock to the herb gardens because in Russia and in Ukraine, people still grow up with herbs. People still know the plants that are healing, and even lay people will know. Oh yeah, my grandmother gives me this when I have such and such. And so when I do a tour for Russian people, or when my Russian colleague does that for the Russian people, we're preaching to the choir. We don't have to convince them because they already know it. And I say to Russian people, yeah, take yarrow for urinary and gynecological issues. Oh yeah. My grandmother always tells me to take that. So Russians still to this day use a lot of herbs, use herbal medicine. A Russian person will first go to seek a natural solution, and if the natural remedy doesn't work, then they'll go to the doctor. Uh,
Which is actually a nice way of doing it,
yeah, it's
right?
very traditional because they're very true to their traditions. They're very traditional people.
Wow, that's impressive that you know some of the names in different languages. Wow,
Yes, because well, of course, when we made signage in the garden, the signage has to be in Greek, in English, Latin, of course, German, and Russian. So
wow.
whenever I walk around in the garden, I see the Russian name as well, and so I know, oh yeah, that's this and that's that.
Wow. Wow. I'm very impressed by this, really. So, what are some of the favorite local Cyprus herbs that you like to work with?
One of my favorite plants is nettle. because it does so many things. So when it's nettle season in February.
Oh, so you have nettle in Cyprus. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, in a very early spring. So that'll be February, and very near the park. It doesn't grow inside the park, even though I've scattered seeds all over, but nettle goes where it wills. And it likes sort of northern slopes, and it likes where it gets a little bit more wet. But very near here is an orange grove, orange trees, and nettle grows underneath there. So this farmer lets me forage from his field, and I know it's all clean and organic. So I go and forage, and there's the nettles there are the smaller leaved nettles. So they're not the nasty, very, very painful nettles. So I don't even need to wear gloves. I just grab them and cut them, and then I bring them back in big rubbish bin bags. Yeah.
Wow.
Because we make soup here in the wintertime and in early spring. Nettle soup is a staple here in our in the restaurant, and people come especially for the nettle soup because you can't get it anywhere else. Of course, it's quite a task to prepare the nettles for soup because you can only use the tops, and they have to be very tender, so none of the tougher stalks. But I also love tincturing it, and I tincture it fresh because it's far more potent and powerful when you use the fresh material. So I tincture it fresh. And nettle is just it does so many things. It's so good for the heart, for the veins. It has so many vitamins and minerals. It's like taking a multivitamin and a vitamin supplement, and the iron. People that with low iron, within a week you can get the iron levels back up, especially if they have the nettle soup in the evening, if they drink nettle tea, or if they take the tincture. It's just amazing. It's great for the heart and for all the organs, for lowering blood sugar levels, for lowering cholesterol, for lowering blood pressure. Very, very effective. So this is one of my favorite herbs to work with. Oregano is another one. And of course, being in the Mediterranean, oregano is a very, very important plant here. And it just smells so beautiful here in this hot climate. I distill it into essential oil. And the oil of oregano, we use it as a natural antibiotic. Very, very effective for persistent colds, for any kind of infections. And of course, you have to be careful with it because it's a hot oil. So it comes with an entire leaflet full of instructions on how to use it. But it's very powerful medicine. Very powerful medicine. I also love hawthorn when it's in flower. Here, flowered last month. And I love making hawthorn medicine. I love picking the flowers, the scent of the flowers, and then the bees are visiting it as well. It's absolutely amazing.
And it goes so quickly. It's like,
yes,
I don't know if it's the same in Cyprus as in Belgium, but it's like 1 week and it's gone.
Yes.
So you have to be very, very quick. And it's very funny because with the hawthorn berries, there is such a long window of time to pick them, but with the flowers, it's just
not so
when
much.
you see them, go for them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Another plant favorite of mine is mountain tea, ironwort, sideritis. It's just when you, even if you just look at the plant and you touch it, and then you see next to it says ironwort, and then you can see, it's a very strong, powerful, almost square stem, very, very erect, almost papery in texture, or like carton. The leaves are very, very tough and strong, and so the plant already communicates to you that, hey, I give you strength. I'm a fortifying herb. And the flowers are light green with a little bit of white. So it's not the most spectacular flower, but here it grows to about a meter high. It's getting into flower.
Wow, that tall! Wow.
Yeah, And when you touch it, then the oil and the resin sticks to your fingers, and for the entire day your hands smell of this plant. It's highly aromatic. Other varieties that grow more up in Greece and in sort of northern Mediterranean, they are much less resinous, and they're softer. So, like in Greece, there are 56 different species of mountain tea. In Cyprus, we only have 2 different species: one that grows in the lowland, the one that we grow here, and one that is a wild plant in the mountains. And if you travel to Greece, the plant is less green, but more sort of gray green, a bit sagey in color, and much softer and fuzzy, really fuzzy. So whereas here it's much tougher and sort of leathery or papery in texture, but it's a fantastic plant, and it really strengthens the entire body. It's great for the brain. It's great against colds and flu, and just as a general tonic to give you that energy. So yeah, I just love that plant.
Wow, very interesting. And is there like a typical Cypriotic herbal tradition or a dish with wild greens, or a herbal first aid thing that you would like to share?
What every Cypriot housewife still knows to this day is when they make hawthorn berry jelly, and that is done with the local variety. So with not Craterus monogina, the Craterus azarolus. So it doesn't make red berries, it makes sort of yellow berries, and they're like tiny apples. I used to call them fairy apples. So when they're in season, women go out and they gather these, and then they make them into jelly, like a jam, a jelly. So you boil them with water and sugar. You don't even need to add any pectin, because it has a lot of pectin in itself. But then they will add to their pan, they will add a few leaves of rose geranium for the aroma. And just a couple of leaves are enough to make this jelly really aromatic. The wonderful thing with hawthorn jelly is that it retains all its medicinal properties, even when you boil it down into a jam. It's called the queen of jams, it's called here. And every single, well, maybe not every single housewife nowadays, but every single yaya, so every single grandmother still knows how to make it, and they will invariably add a few leaves of rose geranium. They do that also with other confited fruit, like the rind of watermelon. This is so beautiful. You know, the economy of nature is just so beautiful. There's nothing is discarded. When it's watermelon season in the summer, there are certain watermelons that have a very thick rind, a very thick skin, which is about like 1.5 centimeters thick. And they will use that rind, chop it up, put it in a jar with syrup, so with a lot of sugar and syrup, and then add a little bit of, a few leaves of this rose geranium. And they make that into a natural sweet, which is served after dinner. These kind of sweets, even though they're high in sugar, they're much better than, cakes and other things made with dairy. But nothing goes to waste. Also, the hulls of euglans, of walnuts, and when they're still in the hull, then they get confited, and that is actually a very it's a medicinal sweet. So that is a traditional thing that people still make. Also, the rind of oranges, or the rind of bitter oranges, is confited in this way in sugar, and then is served after dinner. So they are very healthy in spite of the sugar. They're still kind of healthy sweets for dessert.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, like the queen of jams. I love that. I love the expression. That's very nice. And it's interesting to see how you say, well, not every woman still makes it, but like every grandmother still
The
makes it.
grandmothers,
So
they all still know how to make it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So do you think that the next generations will continue these traditions or?
Not the way they used to. Certain people will continue the tradition because there's always a market for it. So a market creates a demand. Now, the grandmothers of now, they used to be housewives. Just like everywhere else in Europe, there's no such thing as a stay-at-home mom anymore. It's very rare because both parents, if there is a family, both parents need to work. And so there's less time for these kind of pursuits, which means that there's fewer people still doing it, but they are very active in preserving tradition. Cyprus is a very traditional island. Cyprus
Mhm.
embraces its traditions, loves its traditions. And so wherever there's a village fair, you will see traditional crafts, traditional, say, basket weaving. You will see the traditional products, also the homemade pastas, the homemade bread products, herbs, as well as confitted fruits and homemade jams. So yes, people
Okay.
do. People are very keen in preserving their traditions,
Mhm.
even though there's fewer people that actually are occupied with it. It's not something that is going to go anywhere. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, they still identify with it, sort of.
Yes, yes, and there's they really want to preserve tradition.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so well, I think we're at the end of our conversation. I was wondering if there was one last message you wanted to share with our listeners.
Yes. Well, I think when we see when we see nature through the eyes of a child, and we are in touch with our inner child and have that sense of wonder wherever we go, wherever we walk, whether it be on a beach and you look at the sea, or you look at the millions of colors and shapes of the sand, of the individual grains of sand, or you're in a forest and you see all these different colors of leaves, different ways that trees and other plants are growing. Just open the eyes of your heart to observe with the heart, and in silence, commune and communicate with the natural world around you. And then you will see that a whole new world will open up for you. And you'll feel so much more connected, so much more grounded, so much more secure within yourself when you come to realize that you're a part of this beautiful world. And this beautiful world is a part of you. This is a sensation that you can only really, really get to know by experiencing it. And it's as easy as just going out there and spending a little time in nature. And your body and soul will be very grateful to you for doing this. So that's what I would like to share with all the listeners.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Open the eyes of your heart. I love it. I really, really love what you said. It's wow, very meaningful and very it's just lovely, really lovely. And yes, I couldn't agree more actually. So Miranda, if people are interested in your work and they want to know more about what you're doing, or they want to visit your lovely garden, how can they find out more information about your work?
Via cyherbia.com. So our website is quite big. There's lots of blog posts there. There's my personal story, the story of how it all started. There's information there on all the things that we do, things that we grow. There's an e-shop on that as well. So yeah, cyherbia.com is the place to visit, or on Instagram, our handle is at cyherbia, on Facebook, Cyherbia Botanical Park. And of course, anybody that is coming to Cyprus on their holiday, then do hire a car and come and see us here and say that Liva sent you.
Yeah. Miranda, thank you so much for this lovely conversation. I wish you a lot of good luck and success with all the projects, everything you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time for talking for the podcast. And for you, listener, I hope you're listening to this somewhere outdoors. If you're not outdoors, get out of here and go outdoors, go into nature. Just take some time to become silent and get into this connection with nature. It's truly what makes us whole as a person. I hope to see you for the next episode. And in the meantime, keep powdering your nose with dandelion pollen. Bye bye.
A warm thank you for listening, Wildie. Are you feeling a wild itch after this episode? Well, just head over to wildplantforager.com and feel free to connect with me on social media. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I hope you'll be there. But for now, just go outside and follow your wild heart.